Hello everybody, welcome back to Mrs. Tim's Storytime. I hope everybody's had a lovely Easter and that you've had some nice chocolate eggs as well. Unfortunately I've not been very well, which is why I haven't put a story on for a little while, but I'm feeling much better now. And so today I'm going to read you one of my favourite stories. A couple of weeks ago I went for a walk with my daughter and we were walking past a field and we saw a fox and he was just sat there looking at us, and it reminded me of this little character. His name's Romeo, and this story is all about Romeo's adventures at the top of the tallest building in Western Europe, and his name is Romeo, and the story is Romeo's View from the Shard by Gyr King. Romeo's View from the Shard. "Make sure you're back before daybreak," said Doris Fox to Romeo as he was leaving. "I will," replied Romeo to his mother. "I'm just going to play with my friends." Romeo's father, Luigi Fox, looked up from his paper. "Be careful and—" But Romeo had already gone. Romeo loved playing with his friends. They played lots of games, but what they loved most was rubbish bin exploring. You could never tell what you might find in a bin. Food to munch on, paper bags to roll about in, or things to play chase with. After playing with his friends for a while, Romeo remembered his mother's words and set off for home. On the way home, Romeo passed the incredibly tall tower that was being built near his house. It was so high that he couldn't even see the top. Romeo was determined not to be late, so he carried on walking. But as he sniffed the cold night air, he caught an irresistible whiff of chips. They were by the curb across the street. And that's when Romeo saw the hole. And because foxes love holes, he couldn't help but explore. Inside was a long, dark and very narrow tunnel. Romeo sniffed and swished his tail. He smelled new smells. He heard new sounds. Then he saw a light ahead. It was so exciting, he started to run. He popped his head out of the tunnel and to his dismay saw that it was already morning. But just then an enormous boot appeared. Romeo had to duck to avoid being squashed. Luckily, the large boot just missed him. Romeo looked around and saw a large room bustling with people in yellow jackets and funny yellow hats. Romeo stared, amazed. Romeo was feeling very hungry and very tired. Suddenly, the man with enormous boots dropped a chip and jam sandwich right into the tip of Romeo's nose. In one quick gulp, he swallowed the sandwich whole. With his hunger gone, Romeo no longer felt quite so sleepy. He was ready to explore. Romeo had no idea where he was. Swishing his tail and sniffing the air, he came upon a strange-looking cage with several buttons. He just couldn't resist. He pushed a button with an up arrow. Suddenly, there was a whoo sound, and up shot the cage. Up, up, up he went. What fun! run! Then Romeo pushed the red button to see what would happen, and the cage shuddered to a stop. As the cage doors opened, Romeo suddenly realised how high up he was. "Where did you come from?" said a voice. It was Perry the pigeon, busy fluffing up his feathers and rubbing the gleaming gold ring on his foot. "I don't really know," said Romeo. "I just pressed this button and whoosh, up I came to the top." "Ah!" squawked Perry the pigeon. "The top? You aren't even halfway up yet. Push the button again." "Up, up, up," he shot. The cage stopped again, the doors opened, and the view was spectacular. Perry the pigeon pointed out all the parts of London that Romeo had seen from the ground. Everything looked so different from up high. "We're on the 87th floor," said Perry as he circled and swooped. "This is the very top of the Shard, the tallest building in Western Europe. You must be the highest fox in the world." At this, Romeo felt rather proud. But all the excitement had made Romeo very hungry and even sleepier. Perry the pigeon kindly showed Romeo the place where all the builders dropped their leftover food. Bits of crisps and buns, and of course, chip and jam sandwiches. Romeo ate all he could manage, and then laid down his sleepy head. He was soon dreaming of his mum and dad, and of home. Romeo woke early the next morning to the sound of 3 seagulls. "Ha, ha, ha! A fox up here so high!" screeched Boris the seagull. "And not wearing a safety jacket or yellow hat!" scolded Maud the seagull. "Surely far too high for a fox!" laughed Stanley the seagull. "Foxes don't have wings!" All 3 seagulls flew away, screeching and laughing and swooping in the clouds. Romeo looked around and saw that all the builders were wearing safety jackets and hats. Romeo wondered if he should be wearing them too. "Would you like a jacket and a hat?" said the friendly voice of Perry the pigeon. "Yes, please," said Romeo. Perry showed him a large cupboard where lots of jackets and hats were stored. Romeo chose the smallest jacket and hat that he could find. He thought he looked rather smart, just like all the busy builders. Just then, one of the busy builders, who mistook him for a member of the team, put a steaming cup of coffee next to Romeo. Romeo followed the man and sat with the other builders, high above London, eating their breakfasts. When the builders had finished and gone back to work, Romeo sat with Perry, looking at the view and thinking about home. Suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted by a shout. "Hey, you down there!" Romeo looked up to see a man waving from a crane. "Look!" shouted the man. "It's a fox! Catch him!" Everyone was suddenly running everywhere. People were talking on their phones, staring at Romeo and trying to catch him. It was chaos. Romeo suddenly felt very tired and very frightened. He looked around for somewhere to run, saw a ladder. He shot up it. At that moment, he saw a man coming towards him wearing a red vest with the word vet written on it. He looked kind and gentle. The man spoke calmly. and asked Romeo if he would like to go home. Romeo, who had had quite enough excitement to last a fox a lifetime, felt very relieved. The vet tucked Romeo into a snug box that smelt of food and carried him into the cage. Romeo watched as he pressed a button and the cage jerked. Down, down, down they went. When they got to the bottom, there were people everywhere. TV cameras and reporters rushed to talk to Romeo. He was famous. The highest fox in the world, everyone shouted. They all wanted Romeo to sign his autograph. The kind vet gave Romeo some food and checked he was okay after his adventure. Then he took Romeo home to his mum and dad, who were so pleased to see him they forgot to tell him off for being away so long. Whoosh! Perry swooped past, his gold ring glinting in the sun. Goodbye, Romeo. See you soon. The end. And that story is based on a true story of a fox who actually found his way onto the building site when the shard was first built. And he really did eat all of the food that the builders dropped, and they sort of adopted him, and then after a while he was rescued by the RSPCA. So, and they nicknamed him Romeo. So there we go, that's the true story of Romeo the fox who lived in the shard. Hope you've enjoyed it. Bye.